I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this really ghoulish thing that Jim Acosta did. He got fired from CNN, I guess, and so he's doing his own kind of interview, and so I guess he has to, I keep thinking about Addams Family. I think it's the end of the first film, and they start playing Wake the Dead. They're like, let's play a game. Like, what should we play? And like, should we play charades? Or like, no, should we play this? And then they're like, how about Wake the Dead? Like, Wake the Dead. And so anyway, he does AI interview with one of the Parkland victims. And I guess the family, obviously okayed it or whatever, but so he's trying to justify himself on Blue Sky because he's like decided to block replies on not TikTok, on YouTube. And people are still eating him up over there because it's just grotesque. If the parents wanted to keep their son alive, his memory alive, they could have just continued to talk about him, go on Jim Acosta's show themselves and talk about the issues. They did not need to make an AI of their son, what he would have looked like older. It is a tragedy when any sort of monster takes innocent life, period. My heart goes out to those families, and a lot of people did become activists, whether they're for responsible gun control or they're like total anti-activists. The Hogg kid, David Hogg, popped up out of that, and there's been people on the right and the left who's popped out after Parkland, but to use the AI of a son, Jim Acosta could have said no. So it's really, really grotesque. I also wanted to talk about this clip a bit from Piers Morgan on Triggernometry. Oh, by the way, Nancy Mace is running for governor of South Carolina, and I have the ick about that. I have the ick about that for sure. Actually, I retweeted it and said barf and really held out the A. But we'll talk about those things and other stuff that tickles my fancy today. But before we hop to it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream, run my site, all that good stuff. If you guys can support, I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys because it does cost to stream and run my site, everything. So if you guys can, again, appreciate the easiest way to do that is at the website. You guys can do super chats on YouTube, and you guys can, I think, do stars on Facebook and stuff. I still haven't checked that out if they've changed that. But you guys can. Someone said, please no man's Nancy Mace. Are you from that state? Are you from that state, or is just you don't like Nancy Mace? I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. What was I saying? You guys support. You guys can go the best way is just to go to the website, but you guys can do super chats and stuff later. You guys can also go to the site and check out different merch that's available on the site as well, different t-shirts and mugs and so on. You guys can check out my different books as well. I have 18 altogether, soon to be 19 and 20 actually, but sooner 19 than 20, but still kind of working on number 20, but number 19 will be published soon. I just got to tweak some things and send them off to some printers and then pick exactly what I'm going to do my release date, etc., with bigger. So it'll be coming soon enough. Since I see some more of you guys in the chat, I did see that people replied after the show, after I mentioned this. Let me run this by you guys. So my youngest sister who is doing the art for my children's book Bigger, and she's also she did the art for Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. Let me show you that cover. 1 second. I'm gonna reach over here and grab the bigger book. So she did my art for that. She drew the hand of God reaching out to the baby, did a fabulous job. Also she did the art for this children's book, Bigger. And let me pull up some of my, look how cute the baby dinosaur is. Look how cute he is. So she did a lot of really great work. And so that's, one of the illustrations and stuff from the book. That's one of my favorites, actually. That's a watercolor. So she opened her own studio and trying to help generate up some business and stuff. And so one of the things that she does is she has painting parties, and she's done them for different like ministry groups, like kind of like what people do, painting with a twist, but so she's done like painting with a praise, like and like incorporate some kind of message into it. Or she's done some stuff at schools, and she's done some stuff with different businesses and so on. So I was thinking, because she wants to start, one of her followers, like when she was streaming on Twitch, had suggested that she does stuff like kind of live teaching the painting. And I had already started thinking that anyway. And so I'm like, maybe it would be cool if we did a painting party, like black tea and the audience. I'm not saying we got to do it live. We can do a poll or something. We're going to do it live, because I actually don't know how it'll turn out with me, because I haven't painted in a very long time. I haven't painted in a long time. But she's a very good teacher, and she's people who I know cannot do artsy stuff have been able to pull out pretty good products with her instruction. So you'd have to get a canvas, and like I think she uses 3 brushes, like 4 colors, and just teaches you how to mix the colors to get all that you need. And they're usually like acrylic. So it would be cool. And so if anyone is interested in that, I did see some people yesterday mention that they were interested in that. But it would I'd probably use like my StreamYard software. And so it'd be kind of like a Zoom call where I like people who are participating, I would send out an invite, and then they jump in there and they set up. You could just, set up with your cell phone. You don't need like a fancy camera, like webcam, or a microphone or something. You could just do it via your cell phone. I would just make sure that it's just, I don't know, plugged up or whatever, because it will be at least like maybe 2 hours or something. So I think it'll be fun. I think it would be fun. Oh gosh. Sorry to intrude, but I need some help with my prayers. One of my good friends' father died, and I went to the viewing, but there is nothing to say to a good friend when they lose someone that no one can replace. Oh boy. Oh boy. I didn't expect to be like in a crying mood today. Sometimes all you can really be is there for someone. And some people really want to be surrounded by folks. Some people want time and space to process. I mean, you'd know your friend better than I would, but I know my mom passed. Like my dad liked having people around and family around and people visiting and talking and other things like that. The rest of us kind of didn't want that or too much. There were like certain people we were really close to, like members of our church and stuff, who they came over and we had a good time kind of talking and stuff with. But otherwise we're just like, everybody else can see us at church. Like we're gonna praise our way through this and pray to God, because that's what our mom would want us to do. And so we found a lot of strength within our sibling group, our immediate family and our church family, and the memories that we had with our mom, which many of them were spent in church and stuff. So we believe that she went on to a better place. But it is so hard. So I guess I can just say to you, just be there for them how they need you to be. And you just got to pray for the Lord to comfort them and just remind them. This really helped my sister Katrina, because she was talking to a pastor, and they said you can't get by on your own strength. Like this is what God is for. Like he's near to the brokenhearted. So people trying to get by on their own strength, like thank God you're there. Thank God they have people to grieve with. But they have to lean on the Lord. So that's that's what I would say to you. Gosh, I hope that that really helps. Grief is hard. I was just writing about that in my book, because there was it's in the third book of my the sequel to this one. But someone close to the main character and all their friends had died, and they're boxers, and there's a line, I'm not going to quote it perfectly, but it's, I think, written well, but I just wrote it like maybe 20 minutes ago. And there's something along the lines of like, grief is like a match, and it's an endless match. Like you get punched in the face, you get back up, you fight back, you get knocked down, and it's never going to end. You just have to choose to keep getting back up. And it's only over like when you decide to not get back up. And I don't know if that's an extremely comforting this thing to say, but one thing that people kept saying to me after my mom had passed was like, you never really get over it. Like, you're always going to miss them. And that's so like obvious, but it's like, I'm always going to feel this way. I mean, you get, I guess, kind of used to them being gone, and you move on and you pick up new routines and stuff. But, grief comes in waves, some days you're going to be fine. Sometimes you're not going to be fine. That's just unfortunately a part of life. You live, you lose, you mourn, you celebrate, that you love someone enough to mourn them. So anyway, I will, Kevin, I will keep, you and, your friend in, my prayers. And, I really, hope that helps. He said, I used to be one of the positive one in every circle, and I could calm any conflict I've ever come across. It's really hard to do this now. There's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. People in the chat have watched me go through it. And it's still hard. It's still hard. Especially with my mom, because it was so sudden. It was so sudden. But anyway, let's keep everybody. I see everybody sharing their stories in the chat, but let's keep Kevin and his friend in our prayers. I believe there's power in prayer, especially a corporate collective prayer. Now let's rag on some liberals. Let's rag on the libs. Jim Acosta did something I thought was so grotesque. So Jim Acosta, I think he was a pretty famous journalist. He was on CNN. He was like a White House reporter for CNN. He's the guy who was at the White House, and there was an intern holding the mic, and he like kind of karate chopped her to like try to get the mic and fight it off a bit. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? Trying to fight a mic from like a young adult woman. But they ended up giving him his own show, I think, after the Trump administration. I don't think he had it during it. I think like when Biden became president, whatever, they decided to give him his own show. And it just, I guess, well, nothing really does well at CNN. I don't know what it did for CNN numbers, but CNN doesn't do well. A lot of the cable news stuff doesn't hit. especially like the left leaning stuff. And they decided to can him. I think that was a lot to do with like different negotiations of, buying out CNN and other stuff behind the scenes and trying to clean up CNN and trying to make it seem like they're more middle of the road and they're not full of like hacks. And one of the hackiest people on CNN was absolutely Jim Acosta. So Jim Acosta, like a lot of people out there, are doing their own kind of shows and podcasts and stuff. So he decided to have on some interesting guests. So one of the guests is a Texas legislator. We haven't really talked about this yet, but people are upset because Texas is redistricting their lines and they're saying they're gerrymandering stuff and they're going to lose like a Democrat seat and so on and so forth. So there's all these responses from Democrats like Gavin Newsom. They're saying, well, we're going to redraw California. I'm like, how can you possibly make California worse as far as how you redistrict that? And get as many Democrat voters, like representatives out of that state. Like, how can you possibly do that? There's a lot of Republicans in California, a lot of, and then in New York, Kathy Hochul was like talking about if they do this in Texas, we're gonna do it in New York. There's a lot of Republicans in New York. Obviously, there's just a lot of Democrats in centralized areas, in very populous areas. So it's funny if you listen to a Democrat talk about gerrymandering and they don't bring up Illinois. Let me see if I can pull up a map of Illinois really quick. Illinois, I heard Maryland's pretty bad too, but Illinois has like a weird hook in it. A weird hook in it. Like they do what they can to try to block out yeah. Okay. Look at that hook there. Does that make any sense to just curb like that in your state? Does that make sense? If you're a representative of that state and you gotta start over here and start worming your way down. This looks like a cave video. Have y'all ever seen like I don't know, it just seems like you guys aren't too much into TikTok, but I'm on TikTok a lot and I'll just be scrolling like in the middle of the night and then I'll see a cave diving video and they have these illustrations of these people just wiggling in these spaces and I'm like, why did you do this? Why go through this? Like, why would anyone do this? And there's people in the comments joking like, oh, it's too bad they went for their mandatory cave diving. Like, just reminding people like, you don't have to do this. Like, this is a choice. And then people get stuck. Some people die. You know, there was one person, they got stuck in the rock and then they were like, okay, let's pour water on them. So maybe they can like ease out, they could slip out. But then they started like, I don't know, absorbing into the rock and they got more kind of stuck. And then they were like wet and kind of shivering and just all kinds of like things going on with their body. And then I think they had to get some like oil or something and to like basically lube them out or whatever naked. And I think it was a girl. Like this is too much. Why do people do it? But anyway, that's what this looks like. That's what it looks like to me. So people ragging on Texas and it just pretending like there aren't gerrymandered parts all over, especially like places like Illinois. It like just stop. So anyway, the Democrats in Texas have decided to flee the state, which they've done this before. They want to flee the state so they can't have a quorum, so they can't vote on the redistrict lines. So and some of them I think went to California. I think some of them were going to Illinois, funny enough. But they're just going different places where they could flee. So anyway, one of these guys, that was on Jim Acosta's show is one of these Democrats that are just like fleeing the state. I think this is the same guy who also went on Joe Rogan's show, who I wonder what he's trying to make some waves. And he's tried to claim that the Bible gives a pro-choice argument because he said life starts at first breath, which the Bible does not say that, because Jesus cared about women, which women start off in the womb, so that's a very lame argument, and that Mary had to consent to Jesus being in her womb, therefore you need consent to have life, which technically the angel in Luke said, hey, this is going to happen. She's like, oh, that's great, praise the Lord. So like, I mean, I don't think that it would have happened if she wasn't willing, but it's just, how the story went. And life can unfortunately happen without consent. But it's just a huge leap to be like, oh, Mary accepted being a virgin who was pregnant with the Lord to then go to, oh, I guess it's okay to abort children who are made in the image of God who already exists. It was just really wild. He also complained about evangelicals focusing so much on gay marriage and abortion. He's like, and this Jesus didn't even like talk about that stuff. In the beginning was a word, and the word was with God. The word was God. Like, okay. Well, Jesus did talk about marriage, and pretty sure like murder's a bad thing, and child sacrifice is a bad thing, and we could go on. Like, in my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, I lay out how it's biblically wrong, morally wrong, like philosophically wrong, scientifically stupid, like but also, if you're in the place where you think it's okay to do that, there's like a lot of ways that you've missed God and you are not trusting in God anyway. I don't think I think abortion itself is a sin, but I think to get to that point, you've probably committed a lot of sins to get even there anyway. I mean, for example, almost like 90% of the abortions are unmarried women like doing that. I mean, it's like 88%. So there's a big thing there. Okay. Anyway, that guy, you keep your eyes on him, because I think he's gonna make some moves to try to be a power player eventually. There's some folks trying to rise up like him. Alyssa Slotkin from my state, she's a senator. Like, she's on a lot of different stuff now or whatever. But I just see people trying to make moves. But he was one of the guests. The other guest that's actually like causing the controversy that we're here today to discuss. And Kevin said, "May I sub you?" If you're talking about subbing for Black Tea, you don't have to ask. But thank you for subscribing. Make sure the notification bell, because I don't know if you have people out there are hitting the notification bell. I know YouTube is not alerting a lot of different people. It is what it is, but make sure you at least do your part. But he said, a show you don't want to miss at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be having one of those kind of interview with Joaquin Oliver. He died in the Parkland school shooting in 2018, but his parents have created an AI version of their son to deliver a powerful message on gun violence. Plus, Texas state rep here who's on the show too.
Joaquin, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Hold on. Here we go.
Joaquin, I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture of kindness and understanding. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Joaquin.
there's so many things that are grotesque about this. First of all, I don't even think the way that he's talking is it even like great AI. I mean, the look or whatever, some of it looks real-ish, but how it sounds, how he's moving his lips, obviously we all know it's not real, but that's not, of course, an ethical issue, just pointing it out there. You guys see the headline, like, or the chyron rather, at the bottom? This is Joaquim's first interview about what happened to him. Well, dead people don't usually have interviews, do they, Jim Acosta? It's so weird. It's so weird. It's so weird. It is sick. Kit Kat said it's sick. It is sick. It's not just, I'm seeing creepy, but it is sick. And I think his parents are wrong for this. Your children, it is devastating that they weren't able to protect their son, but they can still protect their son. They don't have to use him as a prop for their politics. And you can say it's in the name of saving other kids, but guys, it's weird. It's freaking weird. So, gosh, he's getting eaten up online about it. He went over to Blue Sky, and people are still eating him up about it. I'm trying to see where my lights are. Okay. So, hey Jim, quick question. What the bleep is wrong with you? And Blue Sky is like the lib TikTok, I mean not TikTok, Twitter, where a lot of journalists ran off to when they quit Twitter. What I want to know is what the bleep is wrong with the parents. Grief makes you do crazy things. Acosta has no excuse though. You're interviewing ChatGPT, not Joaquim Oliver. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Also, ChatGPT is not sentient entity that you can interview. He's interviewing an accomplice. Next up, my microwave's views on immigration. That's true. This is not him. This is not his true self. This is a computer generating answers. Jim, you ever think about turning into I don't know what that stands for. It might be more useful than a career pivot. Yeah, I'm not sure what that abbreviation is for. I don't usually comment on stuff like this, but this is beyond bleeped up and gross. You are a bleeping monster, an actual opportunistic ghoul. I'll have one of a kind interview with Joaquim Oliver. No, you won't. You're talking to a glorified answering machine message, you dingbat. And there's just more people calling it ghoulish and unconscionable, manipulative, dehumanizing, which it is. Pointing out this isn't journalism. It's not a real interview. You know, when you don't know the answers in advance. I mean, you're not really supposed to know answers in advance. Like, people think that's pretty questionable when you do stuff with journalism, and folks, you know, get the heads up about what's going to be happening, what people are going to be saying, and so on. So I'm just really baffled by this all with Jim. Whoever thought that this was like a good idea, it's just maybe consider not doing this instead. Jim, this is a terrible idea, just so bad. Hard no. Fastest unfollow of my life. What the bleep, man. yeah, it's really crazy. So yeah, yeah. I'm not sure what's up with my lights, so it's a little darker. I'll have to figure it out later. Just FYI. Um, yeah. And there's more. Uh, I already showed that one. Yeah. He didn't think it through, and he then tried to like explain on Blue Sky, the father Parkland shooting victim Joaquin Oliver approached me to help them remember their son. Here's his dad, Manny, explaining why his son will be 25 today. It's his birthday. So you did not have to do this. You didn't have to do it. That was a decision that you made, Jim. That was a decision that you made. I just can't imagine doing this. It's so weird. It's I don't know. I've written in the past about how some liberals are just willing to for the name and sake of their ideology, they're willing to kind of do harm to their children or sacrifice their children in a way. And I mean that like beyond just like abortion and stuff. Like people who are really pushing their families and stuff to the LGBT stuff. And there's one really famous video. I'd be surprised if you guys hadn't seen it, where there's a mom and her two kids are kind of talking online, and then they're answering questions, and one kid says, "No, my mom says I can be whatever I want to be, but if I wasn't in the LGBT community, she would just like convince me otherwise." And she's like, "What are you saying?" He's like, "Facts." And then it like abruptly stops or whatever. I don't know if that's the end of the clip or that's where they just decided to stop it, but you know you're free, but you're free to do this thing that's within my ideology. Like how many people really think their kids are trans at 3 or 4? That's you projecting your worldview onto them, reading that onto like the little actions of a boy or a girl. Oh, he picked up the doll. Oh, he wanted mommy's fingernail polish. It must be because he wants to be a girl. Or he loves his mommy, and maybe he loves his older sisters or whatever, and just saw them messing with that stuff, therefore they want to play with that stuff, because they're just kind of copying what they see. That doesn't, mean that their identity is a female, and that you could be like, "Oh, I've always known since they were 3 or whatever." That's again something that you have to read into your kids and push upon them and then raise them that way, and then they're just kind of brainwashed. So there's lots of folks who would just put their ideology first, and I understand that they think that they're I don't know, honoring their son, trying to save other lives. I'm sure they have their reasons, but um building an AI to say we need stronger gun laws and stronger gun reform, like what's the actual like real solution? Because a lot of people online who talk about gun control, and they're definitely better gun experts than me or whatever, but they usually don't know what they're talking about. They don't seem to really know the laws that are in place. They'll talk about loopholes that aren't actually loopholes, and they'll be like, "Oh, that you can get that gun without a background check and stuff," or like, go to the gun show. It's like, if you order guns online, you still have to like have them go to like a dealer or something, and then you pick them up, and you still have to go through a background check. Like, you go to a gun show, you have to do a background check. Like, people will say all kinds of stuff, and it's just not true. Like, I think one of the only ways to really, I mean, you can get around it if like if you inherit like your dad's guns or something like that, you know, And you can't really stop that unless everyone registers that they have the firearms and everything. And every time it kind of moves from like one person to another. And I think that's something that a lot of people are concerned about, the government like knowing a little too much about your business. So I think a lot of people, when they talk about gun control, again, they don't really think it through. But there are activists who their end goal is to like get rid of guns, or to just kind of say that we don't have a private right for firearms. Like Kamala Harris, they really want to bring this up during the 2024 campaign. And by the way, I don't know why Trump didn't. Like, I was reaching out to different people who I knew had his ear in the ears of his campaign or whatever, and I'm like, why aren't they bringing this up? Because when there was the Heller decision, DC versus Heller, Kamala Harris's name was signed on to it with other Democrats, trying to make the argument that we don't really have a right to like private ownership of firearms. So they really wanted to tear up the Second Amendment. And by the way, this wasn't that long ago. This wasn't that long ago. I mean, Scalia, I mean, it was a while, some years back, Scalia was alive and wrote, I think he wrote the main opinion on it, but someone tried to like decimate the Second Amendment, and it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. So it just, they can get on TV and do that themselves. Again, a lot of these people from Parkland, they did go on to become activists. David Hogg launched himself like after Parkland, and so did other folks. So if they want to keep talking about gun rights and so on, that's one thing. But this gimmick is just so disrespectful to your child. And by the way, you also don't know how they would have ended up in life and what their views would have been. So you're using, their image to be your political mouthpiece. But that doesn't mean that they would have believed that, the things that you're saying. So it's just not respectful of his agency either. It's really not. So anyway, this was such a bad move. I'm glad that he's getting like flamed, not just on Twitter, but also, or X rather. I'm glad he's getting flamed on Blue Sky. I wonder if eventually he'll take that down. But to be like, oh, it's a one kind of interview. First one he's had since what happened to him. He was murdered. And it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But to use his image in that kind of way is disgusting. Which reminds me, this got nothing to do with anything we just really kind of talked about, other than using the image. But Colonel Sanders from like Kentucky Fried Chicken, there's a beef with like his, I think, great nephew, and I guess other members of the family with KFC itself. Have you guys seen? I don't know. There's been like a viral video too on TikTok, and they don't like some of the ways that KFC has been representing Colonel Sanders, because they've like drawn him like sexy and have done like romance novel cover stuff, and the family hasn't liked it. They say they're like mocking his legacy and other stuff. And so in retaliation, he started like leaking what he believed was the original herbs and spices. He started sharing with people the biscuit recipe and other kinds of things. And then KFC started like blocking him from their socials and stuff. It's very weird. It's very weird. very interesting tea, I guess. But I don't even know how it just kind of popped up on my For You page. But they don't appreciate, even though they sold their business and stuff and people own KFC and so on, but seeing their family misrepresented in different ways, they don't like it and have tried to protect that image and have spoken out against. And I can respect that. And the petty is just interesting. And people are like, ooh, the biscuit, and taking the recipes. I don't know if I'm that motivated to try making the biscuits. And I do like the biscuits. I don't know if I like the biscuits enough to be like, let me go and try to make that from scratch. Last time I had KFC though, it really hit. The biscuit was great. The chicken tenders were on point. I might try out the chicken recipe he leaked though. Kevin said Popeyes is better anyway. I haven't really eaten Popeyes. My mom really liked Popeyes. She really liked her KFC though. But I just don't really be eating at Popeyes. But I don't know. Popeyes was always slow, and I don't know if I'm just speaking for hood Popeyes. I guess there's Popeyes that are not in the hood, but to me they're always like hood spots, and they're kind of slow getting stuff together, understaffed, people not in a rush to, get stuff together. And so I didn't even try that viral chicken sandwich from Popeyes yet that people were going crazy over, trying to say was better than Chick-fil-A's. I don't believe that, but maybe one day. I definitely wasn't going to fight people in line, literally people fighting in line for it. But I just, thank you, RC, said Popeyes is slow. They're slow. There used to be other chicken joints like Church's Chicken, but Church's, they'd be connected to White Castles, and they would run out of chicken, and the people would get mad that they ran out of chicken. So I don't know. Maybe I'll at least maybe try the chicken sandwich one day, but I just thought it was an interesting beef. Nancy Mace announced that she is running for governor of South Carolina. I bookmarked this clip. I haven't watched her video. So I guess we'll have a little bit of a live reaction here. I used to make I guess I still do political content like this, as far as like videos for campaigns and so on. So I'll give my professional opinion about this, and then I can give my professional opinion about Nancy Mace.
The House Republican has drawn the ire of both Democrats and members of her own party.
She has a way of getting under their skin.
Representative Nancy Mace. Firebrand Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
She's a fighter. I know about that. She's a fighter.
She learned resilience early on. Mace became the first woman to graduate from South Carolina's famed military college.
You've taken a lot of abuse for standing up for the rights of women.
But what they forget is that, Laura, I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. I will not be bullied into silence.
Nancy Mace scores a huge victory in her fight to keep biological men out of women's bathrooms.
We will be courageous. We will be resilient.
When she sets her sight on something, she's tough.
And we will be prepared to take on the challenges of this historic moment.
Okay, so okay, so it was fine. As far as like the actual editing, as far as the content goes, you really want to kind of launch yourself off as I'm the Republican that pisses off other Republicans. Like, I can understand if you want that moderate Democrat vote, and maybe she just feels like the independents is where it's going to be at for her, because she's not like, she wouldn't be my go-to, obviously, conservative choice. So you know, in primaries, you have to be mindful of what you say in the primaries because they will follow you to the general election, especially in the days of everyone can see it online. We can screenshot your tweets. You know, people will track you that like follow you in a car or something. But people hire trackers that will go to your events where you speak and they will record stuff. And if, by the way, if you can find a party or a campaign that's willing to do that, it's a good way to make, you know, $100 or so, maybe more, for an afternoon's worth of work, a few hours worth of work or whatever. So if you're hard up for cash, you can probably go find your state party or some campaign and be like, hey, if you do tracking, I'm willing to do that. You know, you would just probably have to go to like their opponents' events or whatever, keep a low profile and record something. And you know, they might find you out, but but just, you know, keep your cool or just know your rights or whatever. But you know, anyway, Nancy Mace, the clips that she's using, like, oh, she stood up for women's rights, a lot, and she stood back, she pushed back against Republicans. She is talking about like abortion laws. And she spoke out. I don't know if it was really the first time that she spoke out or not, but she spoke out about being sexually assaulted. And there was, I don't know, a provision or a law or something that she spoke out against. I don't know. I don't assume was a federal level thing. I don't remember exactly the details. I apologize. But she said that there weren't exceptions in there for children who are conceived of rape. And so that's a really tricky sort of conversation for a lot of people. And I can understand, especially talking to someone who's a sexual assault survivor. I would urge you to consider the reverse situation. I guess that wouldn't be reverse, but another scenario when you could be talking to someone who was conceived in rape and looking them directly in the eye and saying, no, I believe every other person should have the right to life, but not you. So that's really the issue. If your ideology concerning abortion is you made the baby, you did the deed, therefore you have causal obligation to the child and you can't kill it, and that's what you're rooted in, then I can see you making the concession. If your ideology is it's a life, therefore it has a right to life, and it might be difficult, but as long as the mother and the child can both live, they both should live. You don't have to necessarily take care of them yourself. We can maybe find them a good home if you don't feel up to it after the 9 months, but you don't have a special right to unalive that child and they have a God-given right to life. Then I don't see how you can be consistent in your ideology and then make an exception for a child conceived not consensually. So I think it's just kind of easy to grant that exception, so you don't have to really debate something that is so sensitive and so tough. But I don't think it's logical at all and it's very inconsistent with the pro-life position. As a matter of fact, Jedediah, who was a Republican who was on The View, she did a podcast with Destiny. He's like a blue-haired, not always all blue-haired. I think he maybe has black hair right now, but he's a gamer, and he's a streamer, and he does political content, does a lot of debates. And so he came on her podcast, and so she's like, it's wrong to kill babies, it's wrong to kill babies, it's wrong to kill babies. His thing is, I don't care about you until you're sentient. You can kill them as many times as you want to, but when it gets to 20 weeks, then you really shouldn't. And he means he could do any, like he did it debate with Trent Horn. It's on the Whatever podcast, so it's very long. All those things on Whatever podcast are very long. It's worth watching though. It's like maybe 3 hours, 3.5, maybe 4 hours. I don't know, but it's a good debate. I think Trent Horn is one of the most skilled pro-life debaters that there is. And he admitted that, like, Trent Horn gave him a scenario like, okay, well, if all that matters is that they're human and their consciousness, they have consciousness, could you interrupt a fetus's development before their consciousness, yet continue having them grow and like make them into like a child sex doll? And then he bit the bullet and said, yeah, you could do that. That's permissible in my worldview. And Trent was just like, okay, I'm going to let the audience judge if that's okay or not. So Destiny is pretty extreme on the issue. People would view that as extreme, except past like 20 weeks. And he's like, nah, you shouldn't really be able to kill it. I don't know how you want to enact all the laws though. Because just because you might feel it's wrong doesn't mean that you necessarily want to stop people from having them. But she's like, it's wrong to kill babies, it's wrong to kill babies, it's wrong to kill babies. And that's what she kept saying. And then she was like, but I make exceptions for rape. And he's like, wait a second. What do you mean you make exceptions for rape? And she's like, well, it's just hard. He's like, what do you mean it's hard? You said it's wrong to kill babies. That is a baby. So why would you make an exception to that? And she looked foolish because he asked a reasonable question. Like, why are you discriminating against this baby? And her answer is because it's hard. So I wouldn't mind talking to Nancy Mace about where I stand on that issue. But I obviously know it's very passionate to her because of what she's gone through. So when she's like, they're showing these clips of I stood up against my party, I stood up for women. One of the ways that she's standing up for women was, pushing back against them on the abortion issue. And I think she had like other exceptions, and I don't think she's there's other, I can't remember her exact position, but she's like she's too left on the issue for me. Like I don't think she like supported like heartbeat stuff. I'd have to look it all back up, but I do know like the abortion thing was with the exception with like rape and stuff was a big deal to her. She also made a big fuss with McCarthy when he was the speaker and trying to oust him as speaker. She was a part of those shenanigans, and she was really a part of those shenanigans, it seemed, for her own benefit to get airtime. And I didn't appreciate that. I think Johnson is a better speaker. I think we bounced back into something better, but it was a clown show for a while. It was a clown show, and she contributed to the clown show, and not really for a good reason. I don't think really much for principled reasons. Like there are things that she named, but it seemed to me that she really wanted attention on TV. Now she's been very vocal about the transgender issue in the bathroom, because there was a transgender congressperson, and she's like, I don't want him in my bathroom. So he's a man. In the past, she's made it her business to let everyone know that she is very LGBT kind of friendly, though. So I'm not saying that you can't be pro-gay and then not be like, I don't want you in my bathroom. But to me, I think she's trendy. I think it's really easy when the pendulum has swung. Trump won the election. We're like banning boys and girls sports and stuff. I think it's really easy at that point to make a ruckus and be like, nah, you can't be in my bathroom. And and I appreciate her boldness, I guess, for it. But at the same time, I still think some of the ways she went about it were pretty tacky. So I'm not a fan of Nancy Mace. I'm not a fan of Nancy Mace. Let me see if I can search real quick for like different things that I said about Nancy Mace. There is a big one. If you guys recall. Let me see if I can find a clip of it real quick. I don't want her to be the governor of North Carolina. I definitely don't. I there's got to be better people to run than her, but she's just some people. So many people get into politics because they want power and attention, and you can see that the moves that they are making are very calculated, and obvious to get attention. Like Cory Booker is just a clown. So many things that he does is for attention. Kamala Harris, when she was on the Senate floor and stuff, so much stuff that she did was theatrics. You know, maybe they shouldn't record this stuff. Maybe it would end a lot of the nonsense that people engage in. You know, she's one of those people who like really likes attention for political gain. And I understand, you know, people want to be able to say, I did this, I was on the news, let me send out this email blast and get some donations or whatnot. I think I would have just, I understand, you know, there's like a showmanship about it. I think I would just prefer if my representatives were just competent and did their jobs, like a Ron DeSantis or something, you know. I don't think DeSantis goes out there and makes much news. He reacts to news because they're always trying to come for him, and then he just, you know, obliterates the press or whatever, but in like a back and forth. But if you've been following me for a minute, at least I think this happened. When did this happen? 2023. So about 2 years ago, I got a notification of like an image that I had on my computer. So we're almost like anniversary of this event here. Because this happened in the presidential primary when Tim Scott was running for president. And Tim Scott had a prayer breakfast, and this floored me.
This together, another year, another standing room only event. And when I woke up this morning at 7, I was getting picked up at 7:45. Patrick, my fiance, tried to pull me by my waist over this morning in bed, and I was like, "No, baby, we don't got time for that this morning. I got to get to the prayer breakfast, and I got to be on time." And a little TMI, but he can wait. I'll see him later tonight. But I was here early on this together.
Okay.
Woke up this morning.
So why would you go to a prayer breakfast and talk about how you and your boyfriend were fornicating that morning? Like, ooh, baby, we gotta stop doing it. I don't have time right now because I gotta get to the prayer breakfast. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's just really unchurched. And I know she goes to a church, and I think her pastor was there in the audience, and she wrote, she talked about her church and experience, her pastor and other stuff like the two. But, ma'am, you're not supposed to be fornicating. You're not supposed to be engaging in sexual immorality. And by the way, I think that was her fiance at the time. They did not get married. I think she's single now. So I don't know what happened, but you could be like, well, they were engaged, you know, when they're messing around, and they did not get married, to my understanding. Unless they got quickly divorced or whatever, but I'm pretty sure they just never got married. So, but even if it were true, and I'm assuming it's true. There's no reason to lie about that. Why would you announce that at the prayer breakfast? It's just such bad judgment. For what? For laughs? For giggles? There are a few uncomfortable ones, but she got roasted. I roasted her for sure. I roasted her for sure when this happened, bro. I just could not believe that she said that at the prayer breakfast. Such bad Such bad decisions. Now, I don't know who else might be a contender, but there's got to be someone better than Nancy Mace. And what's going on with that seat? Then they got to run somebody else, I guess. But I've been wanting her pushed out of like Congress, period. So if she's just gonna leave and not be a congresswoman, hopefully she loses that and just fails in the race. But if you like Nancy Mace, you're gonna have to tell me why, I guess. RC said Nancy is a grifter. She really is. I mean, a lot of people are. Again, I would just really appreciate if there's competent people who just kind of did their job. And that was just kind of my thing when I would go to work. I would just go in my office, I would do my job, and I'd produce good products, and and that was it. That was it. Okay, we're at pretty much an hour, but there was something that I wanted to go through. I might have full time to go through it like I want, but I put it in my description, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Piers Morgan was on the Triggernometry podcast, and Piers Morgan has his show, and he has it's like Jerry Springer for politics, and he'll bring on whoever to say whatever that's going to get abused. He'll bring on Candace Owens, he'll bring on Dave Smith, he'll bring on Chank, he'll bring on Marvin from Fresh and Fit, he'll bring on whoever is going to get him some views. And he's been very like I believe Israel has a right to defend itself when it comes to the war, with Gaza and stuff. But at the same time, he's been very vocal about like he thinks that Israel has gone too far. And they're like, what do you think Israel should do? And he's like, I don't know, something else. And they're like, it's really unhelpful. It's really unhelpful. So the guys at Triggernometry decided to have him on, and so there's a snippet that they decided to post about it. And there's issues that I see with this clip, and I'm not I mean, he's a journalist, been in the game for a very long time, and there's things that I know that I'm pretty sure that he ought to know that he gets wrong. So anyway, let me play this.
Do you think there's been any proportionality now in Israel's response?
Well, what I mean,
1,200 people got killed.
What I'm asking you
over the 7th. We're now up to maybe as many as 100,000.
But Piers, with all respect, that's a terrible argument. Because,
is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
That's a terrible argument.
I don't think it is.
It is, because way more Germans were killed at the end of World War II than British people were killed, and yet we bombed Germany into the ground because we were defeating them, right? I think that is a terrible argument, but I'm trying to find out why you say it's indiscriminate. Indiscriminate means they don't care if they're just bombing a civilian building. They're just trying to flatten Gaza. Is that what you think is happening?
70% of Gaza has been flattened.
Yes.
In what way would you not think that suggests a degree of indiscriminate bombing?
The reason that people would challenge the idea of it being indiscriminate, for example, Andrew Fox, as I mentioned, who has a very nuanced view of this, as we found out, he was saying that when he was in Gaza, what he saw was that Hamas adapted their tactics as the war went on, and when they realized that the Israeli IDF was going house to house, they then did the evacuation themselves. They pulled the civilians out and then booby-trapped every single building. So the destruction of a lot of buildings is evidence of the fact that a lot of them are booby-trapped, and that's why they're being destroyed.
I'm sure some of them were.
He made the point that more bombs have been dropped on Gaza than the number of people who've been killed in Gaza, which kind of tells you that it's his argument, not indiscriminate.
Yeah, so what I really took quick issue with a snippet with Piers Morgan is when he was talking about proportionality. And the guys from Triggernometry brought up a good point, and they're like, okay, if you think about World War II, we killed a lot more Germans than they killed with us, and we flattened their country. So to me, if your mentality is like, well, they killed 1,200 of us, like, what's the right amount? Like, are you I don't know, to me that sounds like a Near Eastern sort of revenge law of like, well, they killed this many, so we're gonna kill this many. It's just like a revenge thing. It's not really like warfare. You know, that the ethics and the situation just kind of aren't the same. But anyway, proportionality in warfare, that's not what it is. And so an international lawyer had responded to Piers Morgan, and he ended up blocking her. But I had saw her video tour about Piers, and well, not her video, but her response, and maybe I reposted it. And I'm not seeing it. But anyway, proportionality doesn't mean, well, they killed 5 of our people, so we're going to kill 5 of those people, of their people. That's not what that means. Proportionality deals with them making calculations for each individual strike and saying, is this strike going to be worth it? Like, is the civilian casualty or the damage going to be worth the risk of us doing this thing? And Israel has made determinations that they couldn't go through with many of the strikes that they were planning before. But it doesn't mean you killed 1, I'm going to kill 1, you kill 2, I kill 2. You know, like it's a weird, I don't know, game of chess or something like that. That's not what it is. It's just analyzing each different strike and being like, is it worth us to do this thing? Does it get us closer to achieving our military objectives? And is it worth the cost? And it doesn't look over the overall warfare, I guess, in that point, but it's measuring each individual strike. So I know there's people who've gone on Pierce's show who could explain that. But I know that certain people have felt like he didn't really give them opportunity to talk and really explain such things. So, and then he ended up blocking like a really long response. Here we go. This is it. She said that she responded and that earned her a block. So she said Piers asked why Israel cannot do to Hamas what it did to Hezbollah. That was one of the things they talked about in their interview. She said Hezbollah was not woven into a tight civilian city, and many Lebanese in the south of Lebanon evacuated the area. Hamas embedded terror activity into every inch of Gaza, above and below ground. If 70% of Gaza is destroyed, that's 70% less terror infrastructure. Hamas is the only one responsible for the destruction. If they had focused on building high tech and agriculture, 0% would be destroyed right now. Piers continuously accused Israel of indiscriminately bombing Gaza. This is false and a libelous claim. Every target is precise and carefully calculated. There is always a calculation in war, weighing if any given strike can be performed with minimal collateral damage, and it's based on how important the target is and how many people would get caught in the fire. Israel has dropped less bombs, I think she meant more bombs, in Gaza than people have been killed. And Israel doesn't have bad aim. The terrorists to civilian ratio of casualties will likely go down as one of the most humane in history of war in the most complicated terrain of modern warfare once the fog clears. And if you compare this war going on with like other urban warfare, they have, and I know it's like maybe ghastly for people to maybe hear this because again, it's in the thick of it right now, but they've handled it more humanely than like we handled other like urban warfare like the United States and so on. And by the way, I think they're handling it in a way that's probably more humane than what the US would probably handle this stuff. Just being frank with you guys. Proportionality, Piers makes the claim that the response is disproportionate because Israel killed more people in Gaza than Gazans killed in Israel. That's not what proportionality in war is. Proportionality in war is when the target of the strike is big enough to warrant the amount of collateral damage, and it would incur. Israel pulls back on its strikes all the time if they see in real time that too many civilians are in the way. Additionally, Piers should be grateful the numbers are lopsided because Gaza has had tens of thousands of terrorists. Does he want more Israelis killed so that Israel can kill all of the terrorists? And she said that the guys did a great job combating this point, showing that the Allies ended up killing far more Germans than the Germans did Brits by the end of the war, and that the Allies bombed Germany into the ground. And the other thing she just, also pointed out, you guys can go ahead and read this yourself, but a lot of people are like reading like ill intent, like automatically. They come with a presupposition that Israel is already like ill intent, like indiscriminate bombing and stuff like that. They would kill if they were like indiscriminate bombing. They could have killed more people. They could have been like, we want all our hostages back today, or let's say 7 days, or there will be no Gaza, and we'll clear out the bodies and make a giant swimming pool or something. Like we'll rebuild our greenhouses and et cetera. Y'all ain't gonna exist unless y'all give us our hostages. We will mourn them if they are killed in collateral or whatever, but we're not going to do a 2-year hunt for them and negotiation and releasing criminals from prison who tried to kill Jews. We're not going to do that. You guys give us our hostages if you value your lives and the lives of everyone else in Gaza. And they could have did that, but that's not what they did. That's not what they did. I'm not saying that's what they should have did. But they certainly could have done it. They could have nuked them if they wanted. But someone say, give them back or your pronouns will be was, were. It is sad. I'm sure you guys have well, actually I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's that terrible picture of a hostage being forced to dig his own grave, and he's like skeletal, just so starved. And Hamas can do that stuff, or will do that stuff, one, because they're evil, but two, they feel emboldened to do that stuff because the West is just so dumb. The West is so dumb. And we'll stick up for Hamas and push a lot of propaganda and so on. Miss Rachel, the kid, star woman, had someone on her show, not her show, but her social media, who praised Yahya Sinwar and October 7th and stuff. She eventually took it down, and then people were mad that she took it down. But it's amazing. It's really amazing. And then I'm also seeing all these videos. I wish I could post them on TikTok, but I think TikTok will just take it down for like terrorism and stuff. But there's videos on Twitter floating around of different Hamas leaders talking about how they don't want to just kill the Jews. They want to kill the Christians. They want to kill all the infidels. I'm not surprised by that. They're like, we want to do what Muhammad told us to do. So, okay, once they don't want a 2-state solution, they want a final solution. And once they're done with that final solution, they're going to move on to everybody else. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. So, anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Please go to blackteeners.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream, on my site, all that good stuff. If you guys can support it, very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch at the store. There's a link in the description. It'll take you to the Amazon page where you guys can check out some of my books, like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. And I have a lot of fiction books. Most of my books are fiction books. I got children's chapter books. I got novels and stuff. And I'm going to have my picture book up very soon. I promise. And I will let you guys know when I will have a date for that. And I think I'll have it like available to buy on Amazon, but I think I'm gonna have some listed on my site for people to buy. One, like I would get, Amazon takes a big royalty. So I'm seeing a lot of indie authors are starting to do that, just try to push traffic to their own website to do that, to sell. So there's that. And then I could have signed copies. Some people just drop ship like directly from like Amazon or whatever, and then have Amazon send it to the customer's like address. I don't know if I want to do that, because I want to make sure that there's not like a quality issue, because like sometimes, you know, something can like, maybe they don't cut it the right way. I would hate just for like a not good thing to get out to the customer. I want to make sure they can check them. So it's like an extra like ship from there to there, but at least I'll be able to sign. And then wait, I can have deals. Like if someone wants to buy 2 books, I could do a deal or whatever. So yeah. I'll try that. So I'll let you guys know. I'll also like have a date when I'll release it. And if you're local, you're more than welcome to come get a signed copy. So I'll have it available that people can like kind of reserve their copy in advance to make sure that we have enough for everybody. So anyway, if someone in the if anyone does want to support, I'm responding to a comment. You can go to blacktnews.com. There's a link. There's links in Facebook and YouTube where you can go to the website, and there's a donate page if that's how you would like to support. You know, that's the easiest way to do it. So thank you to everyone who's interested in that and has done that. I appreciate you. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I'll